Good afternoon. This is Eric Petricelli with SIS, and I'd like to welcome you to our continuing educational webinar series. Today we're going to be talking about Microsoft Dynamics SL 2018 CU2 release. Welcome everybody, and thank you for taking the time to learn more about a solution designed to help you extend the power of your Dynamics SL solution. Next slide, please. For those of you that are not familiar with SIS, I'd like to share a little bit about our background from our company and our services. Strategic Industry Solutions is a Microsoft Gold certified partner, and we were founded in 1996, and we're headquartered in Duluth, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta. We deliver business solutions that are focused on project and service-driven companies delivering applications across the enterprise for better visibility and efficiency through our applications and solutions. Next slide, please. As a Microsoft partner, we provide many value-added services, including current state assessments. That includes taking a look to see how you're doing things now and your current system environment. We also offer business process analysis, where we assess how your business functions and provide recommendations to adapt it to best practices based on our 20 years of experience working with businesses similar to yours. For implementation projects, we offer requirements gathering and fit gap analysis. As a full service provider, we also offer support, custom application design, development, and deployment. We offer rapid deployments for hub and spoke rollouts as well. Next slide, please. Benefits of working with SIS. We're a Microsoft Gold certified partner with over 20 years of experience working with project and service-based companies. We have a fully dedicated support and customer care team. We have experienced partners, consultants, and development teams with many years of experience working with the Dynamics SL platform as well as the other Dynamics platforms. We understand your industry's best practices and the software in order to bridge the gap between business and technology. SIS has a broad industry-focused solution offering for Dynamics SL, Dynamics CRM, and Dynamics 365, as well as Microsoft SharePoint. Last little bit of housekeeping before we get started. If during this webinar you have any technical difficulties, please email me at the email on your screen. All phone lines are going to be muted. We will have a Q&A session at the end, and we're going to record this webinar and send it out to everybody probably later this afternoon or tomorrow morning, and we'll have the presentation along with it. Now that we've gotten through all that, our presenter today is Jeff Schuin. We're very excited to have him with us today. He's the Microsoft Dynamics SL Marketing Manager. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jeff.
Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for taking time out of your busy day to learn the latest and greatest things. Oops, let's see, I think I have an extra slide in there. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about. Well, SL 2018 is the topic of the day. We've changed the way we do things. We keep on coming out with new updates for 2018, and we keep on adding new features to 2018, and that's kind of the way we're going. We're all used to that on our phones. We're used to, getting updates frequently, not that you update it once and you don't hear from people for 3 or 4 years. We've kind of taken on that idea here in the Dynamics world as well. So the things we're going to talk about, obviously, a lot on 2018 and the features. We'll talk a little bit about Lifecycle. Where do you stand? What version are you on right now? And what should you be thinking about? And why should you be thinking about upgrading to 2018? We'll do a little bit on the system requirements. And then we'll go over some technologies that I think are really game changers for you as a company. We're going to focus a lot on the Power BI, Power Apps, and Flow technologies. These are 3 Microsoft technologies that are built really to connect to not just Dynamics SL, but to connect to your entire ecosystems, whether it's legacy systems, whatever, to be able to deliver you information, give you analysis, and let you interact with that data wherever you happen to be. And then we'll end with a roadmap of what's going to be releasing later this year. When is that going to happen? And go from there. With that, as we said, we will do Q&A at the end, but with that, let's go ahead and get started. We got a lot to cover today. So the first thing is to talk about Lifecycle. Every Microsoft Dynamics product, not just SL, has a 10-year lifecycle of support. 5 years of mainstream support and 5 years of extended support. So let's look at where you are. If you are in version SL7, you have left the support zone. No support is available for SL7. You are well past that 10-year mark. If you're in SL 2011, you've entered into extended support. That means that if there is an issue with the solution, unless it's data that's corrupting your system, you are not going to be able to get any hot fixes to the system if you're on SL 2011. And also there's no year-end updates, like updates to W-2s and 1099 information, so forth. Those things no longer happen when your product is in extended support. Now that brings us over to our people on mainstream support for SL 2015. Yes, you are still on mainstream support. You can request a hotfix. You can get automatically the year-end updates. But this is your last year for that. In 1/14 of 2020, we moved from mainstream support to extended support. So this is definitely your year, and this is a great time to start getting yourself aligned to upgrade to 2018. And obviously 2018 just came out a year ago, so we've got mainstream support through 2023, so you've got plenty of time to get up and move on to that. So again, look at where you're at, speak to Eric or any of your team here at SIS and talk to them about, hey, I want to start looking and upgrading, and what are my options and my timing. Now with that, let's give you some reasons. We're going to first focus on some things that came out last year. That's 2018 and 2018 CU1 enhancements. And let's start with those. The first thing to look at is sometimes when things change, they go back to the way they were. I can remember our interface for the menu having one color icons, 2 or 3 releases ago, and for some reason, I can't tell you why, Microsoft has got this whole new little D for the Dynamics logo that they're using, and the icons are now one color. Stick around next time we'll change that. But again, this lets you know the menu has stayed the same, the icons have changed, but the same product and functionalities behind it. Now, probably the most significant enhancement one of the top enhancements that I get from my financial people is around this idea of setting up approvals. So let's say that Jeff is the data entry person for the voucher and adjustment entry screen, and Eric is the manager of this area, and he needs to make sure that, Jeff, before you go in and you're done, don't release your batches. I need to take a look at them to make sure everything's good. We would rather correct things before we release them than have you do something wrong and have to do an adjusting entry. So what we can do is today you just have to say, Jeff, please don't release later or release now your batches. Please don't do that. Let me take a look at them. Well, actually inside of the screen now, we can turn on a feature called approvals. Now, what does this mean? That means that you're going to see in that drop-down box of handling, you've got a new option called submit for approval. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means if I try to do anything else like release now or release later, I'm going to be told as an end user, hey, Jeff, you've got to get this thing approved before you can move forward. So what do I have to do? I have to go under. The only option that it will allow me to do is, other than hold and no action, is submit for approval. I click on the finish button, and then automatically it sends my batch out to go for approval. Now that new status is W, waiting for approval. So that is the status of W, and that's what people will be looking for. Now there are 3 ways that you can approve this batch. Let's go over all 3 of them real quickly. The first way is that you can come right into the screen as an approver. So I've logged in as the approver. It knows I am the approver, so it's going to allow me to come in here. And what I can do is do a couple things. One is I could go and look at every single document that's in this batch and choose to approve or reject them one at a time. Or if you're like me and just want to do it once, you'll take a look and choose to approve or reject the entire batch. So you have the ability to do that. Now, as a person who's in this screen, you have a couple things to think about. If I come in here and there's, let's say this is a very simple batch, but let's say there were, 50 line items, and Jeff did a really good job, but only one line item, he chose the wrong task or the wrong sub-account. Well, you as an approver can go in and make that adjustment on your own and choose to approve it and move forward. Or you can go ahead and say, nope, I need to teach Jeff a lesson, reject it, and send it back to them. Now, if I choose to approve or reject it, I can give them a little brief description of why. why it needs to be or why it's been approved. And then I can choose to move forward and approve that. Again, the first way I can approve it is going right into the screen. You'll notice that my status is now approved. This means that that end user, Jeff, can come back into the screen and he opens up that approved batch and he goes, hey, that looks pretty familiar. I can do my release now, which I'm used to doing. So now everything moves forward for the person doing the data entry. Now I said there are 3 ways, so let's talk about what's another way that we can actually approve this. So if I do so, I can actually come into, and we've added something in SL 2018 CU2 called an approval through a product called Flow. Now let's talk about what this is to you. Well, what this means is that you can have it set up to automatically email you when there's something that needs your approval. So we'll think things like here, it's batch number 122 in payables. The total cost is 125. I can see a little bit of details about the batches, the documents that are in that batch and who they're for and the total amounts. And if I'm actually on my machine and I'm in my email and on a machine that has access to SL, I could even click on this link and it would open up Dynamics SL and let me view that other screen we talked about. But the real goal of this is that hopefully you're getting enough information here that you can choose to take action. So I can choose to either approve or reject the item right inside of the email. I don't need to go into the SL screen. I can do it right here. So I can type in approve, or excuse me, click on approve, click on reject, and that will go ahead and actually update Microsoft Dynamics SL screen and let it know that it has been approved or rejected. Now, the neat thing about it too, as soon as I'm in the screen and I choose to approve or reject and hit that submit button that you see down there, as soon as I do that, it changes the email. The email no longer is asking me, do you want to approve or reject this email? It has updated it right on the fly, and now it says that you have done something with it. You have chosen to approve it. Here's the time that it happened. So I love that feature. There's no guessing. Hey, I know I got an email earlier today. Did I go ahead and open it up and actually choose to approve or reject? I can quickly see I have done something with it. I have approved it. Now, another neat feature is this Flow that we'll talk about a little bit later. Flow is a feature that, or an application that runs outside of Dynamics SL completely, but there's an interface that you can run this on a desktop and actually do the same thing that we just talked about. We can go ahead and choose to approve it online. There's also a phone version of that application as well. So if you need this remotely and you don't want to do it through email, those are other 2 ways you can get to that same bit of Flow information. So again, email notifications, getting notified and being able to interact with it right there inside of your email. Now, the third way is we've actually created something called an approval. It was originally, the idea was that was just going to be for approval history, let me know who has approved something, but it kind of evolved after we worked into it into another way that you can approve through another product called Power Apps. Now again, we are outside of Dynamics SL. I don't need to be in SL to run this, but it does allow me to log into the system and it checks who I am against what's been set up in SL and says, okay, based on what you have, I'm going to give you the access to look at your batches. Now it started off as a way for us to be able to view things that needed approval or have been rejected or approved, but also it can be used to see things like show me all my unposted batches or posted batches. So it gives me some different ways that I can kind of slice and dice that information in there. Now, as I'm coming into the screen, I look at this batch right here. The ones that I can approve, you'll notice I have that approve or reject button on them. The other ones do not. So that's actually verifying who I am and making sure I can only do what I can. So let's drill down. Let's see. There's one batch out there. It's batch 126. The total amount is $300. And I see this is the history. So it has started off that it was in process, someone was working on it, and then somebody submitted it for approval. Now we can click on one of those line items and drill into the details. Now this particular one is a very simple one. There's only one doc for the entire batch. Now if there were multiple items in there, we'd see multiple entries. We could see everything that was inside of that. So if there's multiple documents, we could see the details here. Now what we have on the left-hand side is kind of giving you the high-level status. So right now we can see that there are 2 approvers that have been set up in the system. One is called Manager 1 and one is called Approver Test 2. And it's telling me right now, those are the people that are going to have to look at it before it can go forward. And right now, as of this time, nobody has taken action to approve it. So I can also say, okay, well, that's a good one. Let's look at one that actually has started to be approved. One of the neat things is I don't need to jump back out to go to start viewing these things. I can actually look right up here and say, I want to jump to another batch, select that batch number right above it, and I say, yep, there's one out here. It looks like someone actually approved it, so let's just kind of show you what's the difference. And if we look on the left-hand side, we see that the last person approved it was the person who was set up as approver 1. So they are set up in the system, and that it is waiting for approver 2. Again, it's a great way, if you're using the approval system, a great way to quickly open up, see what's out there, see who's holding up the process, quickly view who it is, and then contact them, say, hey, listen, you need to get on the SIC, you need to start approving these items that are sitting out there, or rejecting, whatever you need to do. So the next thing is that we want to be able to actually, we talked about, that was the first idea, is that we'd want to be able to show you so you could get the details. Next is, hey, why don't I just take a look at the ones that need my approval, and now I can go ahead and choose to actually interact with them right on the screen. So I've been set up as an approver. It says that I am that approver. So if I click on the approve button, it's just going to verify that that's what I want to do, and boom, I can go ahead and I have approved it. So again, 3 different ways to do all the same things, but 3 different ways you can get to the information. Now the questions I always get is, well, how do I set up approvals? Well, there's a whole new approval maintenance screen. The voucher adjustment entry screen allows me to choose what screen. Again, this is the first one that's available. We can choose to set up approvals for all companies to be the same. And then we can choose whether we want a group of people to have to approve it or a user. Now we don't have to set 2 levels of approval, we can just set 1. And then we can, again, as I said, it can either be a group of people and whoever gets there first approves it, or a specific person has to do the approvals. Now that's where we are today, and just as a side note, we've really evolved and really enhanced this feature over the last year through a lot of great feedback that's kind of led to what you're seeing now. The next step is that we're looking to add this to another area. It looks like the GL journal transaction screen is next on the list of approvals. So the idea is to continue to enhance and add features to this, like approvals for other screens that are getting really a lot of requests. Now, so there we go. Yes, that was a lot to talk about, Jeff, but I think hopefully you're seeing that's a big one, and that's one that's going to really help you out, I think, going forward as well. Now, the next thing is an enhancement around possible value lists. Now, back for those that are on SL 2011, you're used to coming into the screen. It might look a little bit different, but when you would type into the area below, you would type in like the value T, and if you had clicked on the field name or the field called name, it would have taken you to the first entrance that began with the letter T. So that's what it's been in SL 2011. In 2015, we added it more what we call a contains clause. So it's basically looking anywhere where it finds ON in the value name, it's going to display one of those entries. And the people in 2015, some loved it and some said, I really miss my begins with. Well, here in 2018, we added the capability for you to do both. And it can be done on the fly. You can choose to do a contains, to do begins with, right on the fly, right on the screen. And you can even set a default that, hey, when I log into the system as web user 1, I want to use the contains clause. So it always defaults there, or it defaults to begins with. Now the next is around invoice printing. If you've ever printed invoices inside of the project modules, you know it can be a tedious process if you've got a lot to print out. And if you don't want to have to waste printer paper, sometimes it's harder to do the print preview because you have to see them one at a time. So we've kind of done 2 things. One, we let you tell us where do you want to put these files? Where do you want to put these preliminary invoices? You could put it on a local directory. You could put it on a SharePoint site for a manager, a SharePoint site for a project. Hit the button and then you don't have to interact with it. It'll automatically output those items to there. You don't have to sit there and choose what to do. Same with final invoices. A great way to get the items out there, get people to be able to view them, give you the approvals by actually being able to see them and move forward. Now the next one, a big one that was added here, I think in CU1 here, was the idea that now we can make a vendor inactive. Now customers, you can make them inactive forever. Vendors, for some reason, we're never being able to make them inactive. So we've added that functionality here in the vendor maintenance screen. Now the idea is that I'm having an issue and Eric is my vendor and he and I are having issues. So I decide, you know what, I want to stop everything that we're doing with that person or that customer that vendor at the time. Now, what does that mean? That means no new purchase orders, no new voucher adjustment entries, and so you can't put anything in there to pay them. And then lastly, you can't do any checks. You can't cut a check for a vendor who's inactive. So you really are cutting them off. You're stopping all things going forward with them. So even if there's something out there, you're not going to allow them to move forward. Now, how does it change? Well, we remove them from the list. And what are the things that to think about? Well, if you are in the vendor maintenance screen and you go ahead and make a vendor inactive, if we notice that they have some purchase orders that are out there, we're going to warn you. We're going to let you move forward, but we're going to warn you. Hey, by the way, there's some POs going out there. You probably are stopping it for a reason. We'll let you make them inactive, but these POs really, you might be able to finish them, but you're never going to be able to pay for them. So just know about that. And there's situations where we're not going to let you do it. Hey, if you move forward with this, did you know this is going to mess up things in other areas? So for example, maybe you've set them up as a primary vendor in inventory. Well, if we allow you to turn them off and someone runs a process to generate items, it's going to mess up and have problems. So we're going to say, sorry, can't do it in these particular cases. You need to make those adjustments before you make them active. What does this actually affect? Well, a lot, right? You can see a lot of screens got changed to start working with this new idea of vendor inactive. Now, the last thing before we leave this is to let you know, making someone inactive is just as quick as making them active. The idea is that if I'm having an issue with a vendor, I can make them inactive right now, but hopefully that we will solve our problems and move forward, and then I can quickly make them active again, and then they are available. Other areas of enhancements, again, for our SL 2015 and so for people, you are familiar hopefully with this idea of doing reversing batches. This is geared towards the journal transaction screen, so you're making entries into the system. And if I'm told, hey, Jeff, I need you to make a journal transaction and you need to put this data into this system, if I put it into that screen and I totally botch it up and it goes to the wrong place, maybe I put my credits as debits and debits as credits, and you just want to wipe it out. We've added this functionality here for I think at least 1 or 2 versions here that it allows you to reverse that, make an exact copy of that batch in reverse, allow you to go ahead and reverse it and take care of basically net removing that entry into this system. Well, one of the things that's been added here in 2018 is that there is also an issue that sometimes when projects were involved, the units that were being passed over to the project area were being put in reverse. So credits were coming over as negatives to the projects, debits were coming over as positives to the projects, and we basically had to flip that around. So now that when you're using this process, if you had shied away for it because you're using projects or doing project entry lines, know that now the system properly updates the project system. There were some enhancements here around time entry. There's in the time and expense setup screen, there's been a tab called Project Flex Time for, many years. We've just adjusted that to be focusing on the fact this is actually interacting with our web apps product, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. Other things that we did, time, travel, and expense report entry. Probably one of the bigger requests we had is that, yes, even though we use web apps and online systems to do our time and expense entry, and usually in expenses we're doing our receiving, sometimes expense reports will come through without the actual receipts attached to them. The approver just got busy, they clicked sure, and I approve everything. It gets down to me in accounting and I go, you know what, no one attached the receipts, I can't move forward with this. So what would happen usually as soon as a travel and expense report would get past a certain status, you could no longer, these icons would be disabled and you can no longer add attachments. So we've redone the screen and made it so that these icons are basically available at all times. So even if things got through and got approved, you can come back in here, reopen them up, attach the receipts, and move forward with your processing. Now, some other enhancements. An enhancement that's been around for a while, but we're kind of bringing it back just to get people familiar with it, is this idea that inside of your SL homepage, you can have a web page displayed. So in this example right here, I am displaying the customer source page. It could be the SIS page that you use. It could be an internal intranet site. It could be an internal SharePoint site or report site that you have out there. But basically what we've done in 2018 is we've updated this ability so now it actually works with more modern web pages. So it was built, obviously, added many times ago, so we've updated the functionality so it's working with the latest and greatest functionality that's out there. And we've even added a feature to hopefully inspire you to use this. Now, this is a little bit administrative focused, but again, the idea behind it is that if you guys have an internal web page that you want everyone to have on side of Dynamics SL, the idea is that you could type it into the homepage once, save it, and then hit this new homepage copy to feature, which would allow you to copy that URL to either a group of people or individual people to update their homepage, so you didn't have to do it manually. So again, that's kind of just promoting that idea of this functionality. Now let's talk about what's SL 2018 CU2. Well, CU2, or as it's known, Cumulative Update 2, just came out the beginning of last month. So beginning of last month, it just became available and is available for you to install today. So let's talk about some of the enhancements. Well, the first two to talk about before I jump any further is those two items that we talked about, being able to do flow approval and to be able to do Power Apps approval. Those are delivered and available here in SL 2018 CU2. But what else did we do? Well, this is going to be a little bit of an eye chart, but I apologize. See, I thought I got rid of that. Okay, I did not. Basically what we did is we spoke with a bunch of consultants who work in the project area that are working with customers like yourself. And we kind of polled them, and I apologize, I could have sworn I fixed this to make it less wordy. But the idea behind this is that we wanted to create quick query reports that are going to help you with your processing. So ignore the text and listen to me if you can. The first two, the allocation processor analysts. The idea behind this particular quick query is it shows you if you were to run allocation, what would be generated, what would be included in the allocation process. A great way to see what's in there. If something's sitting in there and you thought it's already been processed, it's going to let you see that. The allocator transactions and transactional with billing, that lets you know what was just generated by your allocation process. So you can look at it and make sure everything came out the way you expected. Billing transaction load analysis, letting you know what would be eligible to be billed. Financial transaction transfer analysis allows you to see what, if you ran the FTT processing, what would be eligible to be an FTT. Again, great solutions. The allocation process can be as simple or as complicated as you need it based on your system. It's great flexibility to be able to set up that way. These are great ways to analyze how you're using them and how you're using those different areas to make sure they're coming out the way that you thought they should. So excited about that. For our financial people, one of the things that we've been asked for is in the GL batch release screen, people wanted to be able to see some additional information. So we see that it's the batch number, the company, and the status. One of the things that people wanted to know is, did Jeff put in the right period to post? So we have a field on here. We can see that Jeff has put it to the wrong period. He went to 06/2025. This database happens to be, I think, in 2004. So what does that mean? That means that if I have access rights to the screen, I can go into initialize mode, and now I have access to that field. So I can change that to 2004, which it should have been, and release the batch and move forward. So if I went ahead and looked at that batch, I see that, yep, in fact, without actually having to go into the journal transaction screen at all, I can make that adjustment and move forward with that. So that's gotten us a lot of yes, that's a great functionality, and look to see that coming out in other screens as we go forward as well. Now for my project people, if you've ever had to set up project week maintenance, it is a requirement. It means that every time you need to set this up and able to do time entry. Well, I do a lot of time entry demos, so I worked with customers and with partners, and we came up with an idea that I think is going to make any of you who have to do this today much happier. So this is the same week maintenance screen, but we've added new functionality to the header. What it allows me to do is go in and say, okay, I see, it tells me what has already been set up in the system, that our week, the last day of the week in our time card is Friday. Nothing for me to edit, nothing for me to change. But what it lets me do then is say, when do you want me to start adding weeks to your week maintenance screen? Start from this date, give me the end date, tell me what time time card period, is it weekly, bi-weekly, semi-monthly, whatever that happens to be. And then if I happen to get to the end of the month, what do you want me to do? If the end of the month is the middle of the week, do I stop the time card there and then create a brand new for the rest of the week? Or do I continue to create a time card as I normally would do? So all the basic questions that you would usually ask yourself are available right on the screen. Again, we see that we can do the whole weekly, bi-weekly, all those different areas. And the idea is once I have the information here, I can go ahead and click on the Begin Processing button. And what it will do is it'll go ahead and generate the information that I requested. I requested it to create these 3 week ending dates into the system. I told them the fiscal periods, I filled in the fiscal periods, the labor periods and everything. it is all on the screen. Now, the nice thing about this is when I put it in here, if I made a mistake or I want to make an adjustment, it is now in its preview area, so I can make adjustments to the screen, add, delete, remove things. And then when I'm happy with it, I can just click on the OK button, and now it has updated the grid, and now the grid contains those new entries that I wanted to put into the grid. So great bit of functionality if you've ever had to do week maintenance or had to set it up, whether you guys do it on a monthly or semi-monthly, or bi-weekly process, whatever you happen to do. It's going to make your life a lot easier. I know me as a person who demos time entry a lot, I'm super excited about this as well. Now, the next project-related things are the lovely end dates. Well, projects have always had start and end dates, but really they were just there for informational purposes only, meaning they didn't really do anything. Well, we've added that they actually can do something for you now inside of Dynamics SL. So we have 3 different levels of end date validation. We can either do it at a project level or a task level. Now, what does that mean? Well, at a task level, this project and end date validation will limit what can be entered in for time and expense entry. So this means that if I go into the time or expense entry screens in the Rich client or now here up on the web, that if I go ahead and the end date is before the date, today's date, or is past, that project will no longer be visible for me to put my time against or my expenses against. Great feature. Wow, I can actually stop people from using it because we've actually hit our end date. I can just turn it off right there and it's not available for them. Now, it still can be used internally for the accounting team to make adjustments. It's just those time expense people cannot use it. Now, the other level is at a task level. So what's the difference? Well, basically what will happen is when you go to look up a project, if a project's tasks have all, it will no longer show up. But if any of those tasks, let's say there are 100 tasks and any one of them is still enabled and still valid and it hasn't reached its end date, that project will display. Then when we get to the task list, again, the task is only going to show the tasks that have end dates that are valid and that are still available. So a great bit of functionality added to the screens. We talked about where it's set up, obviously in the project maintenance screen. And then these are all the screens for time and expense entry that are available now. Again, being added to the SL 2018 web apps as well to interact with that functionality. Some other areas, invoice and adjustment posting. Well, the idea behind this is that we want to be able to make the possibility of invoice adjustment posting more detailed as far as what we choose to post. So you see right above that red box, you see the ability to choose by invoice cutoff date, a biller, or any of those things. Still there, but we've added below it the ability to select one or more projects or one or more invoices that are available, so we can choose those, and it will only process the items that we select to put in this grid as well. After that, we also have some enhancements for our service series. A long time ask is the fact that if I'm doing a quote for a person, I don't really know the site. I can guess the site. I know that I've got a call and they want me to do some work for them, but the site might not be set in stone because it could be any of their locations. So what happens today is that as soon as you set that site, it locks it down. We're happy to say that now here in 2018 here, CU2 or 2018 CU2, you can actually change it. So if I change it to another address, I can still have that flexibility to do so and make those adjustments. So SL 2018 keeps on getting bigger and we keep on looking to enhancement. We'll talk here towards the end of this half an hour about what's coming next or what's in the next release or when is that next release going to happen? I apologize. So we have a lot of great things coming down the road, but you can see the continued investment, and hopefully you're hearing these are requests that we're getting from customers. So if you have any, you are at a great company, you're at a great partner, so definitely reach out to your SIS consultants or whoever you work with at SIS and say, hey, I liked what I saw today. I've got one that I'd love to hear as well, because I would love to hear your requests as well. So some other things to talk about. There are some other functionality that's been coming out from Microsoft around the cloud. Obviously, if you haven't heard the cloud, well, you're probably got your head in the sand, because we're all being pushed to discuss what is this cloud and what can it do for us. So what Microsoft has done is they've invested in a solution to kind of go after any of those people out there that need that true cloud solution. Now, what does that mean? That means that they need the solution that's available in the cloud And some of you are probably being hosted, which gives you that exact same capability. But some people think they need to have this new, cloud-only solution. And Microsoft obviously wants to be competitive in that market, in the ERP solution market. So they came up with a solution called Dynamics 365 Business Central. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to use it and make it available to people that are in SL and GP and so forth. So they created something called Intelligent Cloud. Now, what the idea of Intelligent Cloud was to give you an idea of looking into Business Central to use it for a couple of different ways. One, you might need people to have access to your financial data, but you don't want them logging into SL. Maybe you just wanted to restrict what they can see. You only want them to be able to view that stuff. This is a perfect example. So you want to give people read-only access to the data. You don't want them to get into it. You don't want to have to set up remote access into SL. And you want to be able to get into any device they want. So if they need access to things like accounts balances, customers, vendors, and so forth, you can set that up here through the Intelligent Cloud. And basically, we'll take that data from Dynamics SL, copy it up to that ERP solution, Business Central, in the cloud, and people can view that information. It's not live, they can't do anything with it, but it gives you that capability to do so. Now, there's also a new version. It's not out yet. We were hoping it would be, but it's not quite out there yet, that allows you to copy your transactions up to Dynamics SL as well. And I apologize, this screen has kind of messed up here. But the idea behind it is it's supposed to copy all your transactional data up there so that you can potentially look at that information inside of Business Central. Now, it is not inside there where you can actually, it's updating and running transactions. It just gives you another way to share that information. And you can see there's a list of all different ways you can view that. This strictly, we're looking on the customer side. There's vendor information, inventory information, sales orders, all that stuff. You can see all that information inside the system as well. So just to kind of let you see just other ways that you can disseminate data out to people inside of your company that need access to view that. It also builds into the Dynamics 365 is the ability to give you insights into things. So being able to look at your past customer or vendor transactional histories, and then it'll allow you to kind of look at where you are and where they feel things will be coming in or things will be shipping and so forth. So it gives you some great insight to it as well. So again, that's Intelligent Cloud. Again, speak to your person at SIS to talk about whether that's something that makes sense for you to look at. All right, we'll skip that as well. Again, how can it be updated is basically saying we can update it as frequently as you want. So I said, if you have any ideas, please let us know. We're continuing to move that approval process out to other areas here. That will be coming out here in CU3. Invest in something called Power Suite, which we're about to talk about, some payables enhancements, and more. Again, but if you have any suggestions, definitely contact your SIS person. And there's my email address as well if you happen to want to connect with me directly. All right, let's talk a little bit about system and technology updates, some things to think about. I get these questions, what version of this or that do I need to be on? Of course, these documents are available for you out on Customer Source, but I just wanted to highlight some of the things that have changed here. One is that with Windows Server 2019 coming out, SL 2018 CU2 officially supports that. So if you are looking to upgrade your servers and you wonder, does it support it? Yes, SL 2018 CU2 supports Windows Server 2019. Likewise, SL 2018 CU1 was the first version that actually started supporting SQL Server 2017. So again, if you were asking, looking, just to let you know, those are supported. Your system requirements for your Office, again, the current versions of Office, as the latest versions become available publicly, obviously we will continue to go ahead and test our solutions against them as well and make them compatible. Some technology things, again, I'm going to skip over some of these. These are a little deep in the technology area. Again, I apologize, I could have sworn I hid these, but there's some technology updates, standard things that Microsoft finds. There's a security update for something called TLS, which provides remote access things. It's something called the secure socket layer. And there's a new version of it called 1.2 that we needed to update for SL 2018 to make it sure it's supported that. There were also some things around SQL and database encryption that we added in SL 2018 CU1 as well to be able to support that. Now, SL 2018 CU1 had some technology updates. So one of the things that we just want to note is that you do need to get to 2018 CU1. You do need to go right to 2018 CU1 from 2015 or 2011, whatever you happen to be in. Now, we were hoping that's not the way it was going to be, that we could overlay things and make it easier, but when technology updates happen, you have to do what you have to do. But the cool thing about it is if you already are on SL 2018 CU1 and you've seen some cool new features in 2018, that CU2 is just an installation over top of CU1. And that's the way we were hoping it would be through all the CUs. And that's currently the goal for CU3, is that it'll just install over top of it. But again, crossing our fingers that nothing big else is added, we will be able to do that as well. All right, so we've talked about the things that are in the core product. Now, these are the things that I really feel are going to change, or game changers for you as customers, that are, yes, they can connect to SL, but these are things that can connect to your whole entire business. Now, the first one we're going to talk about is Power BI. Now, hopefully you've heard me or seen things about this, but basically think of Power BI as being able to take many disconnected ideas and data that you might have in a legacy system, an Excel document, Microsoft Dynamics SL, and all those different ways, and it just takes that data and builds it into one cohesive view of your information. So we can get multiple data sources, many different ways, and now we can view it in one. Now, what we've done with SL is we have provided a series of dashboards initially here focused on the project area, being able to see things like, how's my labor versus expenses for my projects going? How much is percentage is labor, which is expenses? How's my gross margin going for my project? Look at it at the current month for the blue bar, and the green line shows me the previous month. I can see, are we increasing my gross margin? Yes, we are. So that looks to be good. We can also look at things like how we're doing in revenue, labor, and expenses. Take a look at project managers, how they're doing, and start drilling down, as well as being able to see the top 10 projects that are sitting out there by revenue. So nice thing about it is this data is completely interactive. So once you connect this to your Dynamics SL, you have the capability to really slice and dice it as you want. You only want to see a report for this for a specific year or multiple years. You only want to see it for specific periods or specific rankings. You have that capability to make those adjustments, select it. And again, these are updated live. As soon as you hit that, it's going to read and show you the latest and greatest information based on what you've just chosen on the screen. Now, another neat one that I really like is the kind of the outliers. Tell me the projects that are doing really well. Tell me the projects that are not doing so well. Let me see the project managers that are really doing well and the ones that are not doing so well. Now, why would you want that? Obviously, doing well, you want to continue to make sure they're getting what they want to continue to be successful. And the ones on the bottom, you want us to talk to them about, okay, what's causing us? Is it a lack of resources? What's the issue? So you can address the bottom as well, so we can start moving them up and keeping those up as well. This one I love. There's a million ways to slice it. Okay, there's probably 20, but okay. The idea here is I can look at everything, project to date, revenue, expenses, labor hours. I can choose multiple. I can basically lay them over top of each other and see all the different ways I can view that information all inside of here. So lots of different ways to slice and dice your information. Now, obviously, these are delivered to you. These are available to you. If you're on SL 2015 or 2018, you can go ahead and connect this to your project data today. Now, again, I talk about the SL side of it, but again, there's lots of other areas that you can connect to out of Power BI as well. The next solution is around something called Power Apps, and we saw an example of it a little bit earlier, demonstration of doing approvals. But the idea behind it is that you want to be able to create an application for a specific task that you give to a certain person or group of people. Like in the past, if you would have said to me, hey, Jeff needs the ability to get in, update this 1 or 2 vendor fields, save it, and then do his job. So you might say, well, Jeff, I don't want to have Jeff log into SL and worry about him setting up the access rights and so forth. You literally can just say, okay, if Jeff's task is to do X, Y, Z, you can literally create an application that interacts with your data, create an app that has the fields that you need on it that you want, and you know what he wants to do, and he can create an app, publish it, and then he can do that on his phone, on his tablet, on his desktop. That's pretty powerful stuff. In the past, if we were to say that, well, that's an SL screen and that's going to take X and X amount of hours, the idea behind this is something that you, working probably with SIS or on your own, can create an application that can interact with your data. It can be as simple as an application that's just a picture of the items. It can be as complicated as a budgetary viewing of basically looking at how you're doing versus a budget. Lots of different capabilities. It can be as simple, again, as a list or as big as that. Now, the other solution that we showed you an example of earlier is Flow, and that's where we're talking about approvals. But the idea about Flow is being able to be notified and take action on things that are happening in your database. Again, I'm talking about the SL side, but this could be anything. There are connectors from Power Apps and Flow to many different solutions out there, and there are many pre-built templates. For example, as you see in the upper left-hand corner, I could have it set up to automatically text me the email, text me the weather forecast for the day. Let's say I want to get it every time before I get up at 6 in the morning. It's going to text me. I get that information. I can view it and move forward with it. But it can also do other things more business related. Let's say every week, at the end of the week, you want it to go through your emails, find any attachments that are out there, and make sure they get saved to a safe spot on your SharePoint site or local site to make sure that it's keeping track and you're not losing any important information that is sitting in your system as you delete things later. Those attachments are saved and put out there. And it can do anything in that between. You can see there's lots of different examples here, but definitely keep this in mind. This is some great functionality that's out there. Just as we talked about, available on the web, just like Power Apps and Power BI can be made remotely, again, available to interact with your information. Now, in SL 2018 CU1, we came up, and I have it load them all in here, we came up with a bunch of flows. Flows are the email notifications. And there's a couple different ways to look at flow. It can be as simple as, let me know when someone's created something new or entered something new into the system. So a new account, a new customer, a new vendor, a new project, any situation that's out there where you want to get notified, hey, someone put something into the system, they created something new, that's completely within the realms of doing. We went through the approval process earlier. We showed how you can use approvals. You can also do it for balances. I want an email notification sent to me every day. Any customers that are over a balance of $10,000, $50,000, whatever it happens to be. You can even set it up that the 10,000s go to this one person, but anything over 50,000 goes to another. Again, that can completely be set up. Same with vendors. Let me know when we're behind in paying our vendors, or I can even have it set up to automatically email the customers to let them know that they are past due, and I can provide them with as much or as little information as possible. Now here's just a couple examples. Again, they're really nice looking emails. They've got columns and headers and colors, and it looks really, really nice. It allows me to send this information, let you know I don't need to be in SL to get these notifications. You choose exactly what to view. We've put the basic on here, but the nice thing about these flows are they're completely customizable. So even though you get it and you bring this into your system and you import these flows, they're completely customizable. Add a field, remove a field, hide a field, whatever you need to do. Make it work for you. And this is where I see, hopefully you're going, wow, I never knew you could do something like this. This is what's going to make the main change, the big game changers for you, I think, is being able to set these things up in the system. Now, another thing that we wanted to create is, obviously those flows show you about 5 or 10 different examples of how you can connect it. And as I said, you can connect them to whatever you want. But the other thing is, how do we, I've got that cool new flow that I talked about, but how about something that I can kind of put together as an example of, hey, give me an example in the SL world of something that I can use. And what we came up with, accounts receivable example here. The idea is I want to be able to see what receivables are due by customer and show me the ones that are really outstanding balances. I want to be able to then, if I see one that has an outstanding balance, I want to be able to drill in and contact them, say, hey, what's going on? And then if there's something wrong, I want to be able to say, hey, I thought we got a payment, run an aging, and then see those results. So we have created that. We have 2 different versions. We have a version that is a phone version. You can tell this is my phone version because it's very narrow and would display quite nicely on my phone. But again, it's showing me the customer ID, the customer name, the balances. I've got little colorful icons. They're red when they owe me a lot. They're yellow when they owe me a little bit and so forth. So I have that capability. I can even search for a customer and drill down. Now we've also created this same exact thing, but we've created this information in a tablet version. Same bit of information, but obviously I've got a lot more real estate, so I can view more at one time. Let's say I wanted to drill in and see a little bit more about Baldwin. We can do the same thing on our phone tablet, but this phone example, but again, just slightly different. I can quickly see, okay, yep, this is how much they owe. They owe us $408,000 for this one company. Here's his contact information. Here's how I need to get in contact with them. The nice thing about it is that I can interact with it. I can choose to click on the email icon. It will pull up my email that's on my system and allow me to email them, or if I'm on a phone, to pass that phone and number to them as well. And I might come to the situation where I go, you know what? I could have sworn we got a check for $300,000 yesterday. Maybe we haven't applied it or aged it. So I can actually run the aging remotely. So I can click on the aging, click on that. It'll verify, are you sure you want to run it? And I can click yes. Now, upon running aging, I've set up it to connect to Flow. So just taking a step back, Power Apps, Flow, Power BI, they all kind of interact together as much or as little as you like. I've got it set up as soon as you hit execute, it's going to automatically email you. So I've got an email from Philip here that is set up that says, hey, by the way, you've run the aging process. And then it has attached to it a copy of the aging report. Now, this is completely customizable. I've left it to send me everything. But again, completely customizable. You can remove the fields you like, you don't want to see, keep the ones you like, format it, and so forth. But just to kind of give you an example, we can show you as much information as you'd like to see. So as we talked about, these are the ones that are new. Okay, I apologize, we're duplicating ourselves, but lots of different information that's available to you there. So hopefully with that demonstration of Power BI, Power Apps, and Flow, you are getting some ideas. I purposely had us create solutions that you can work and connect to today so you can start getting used to it. But I really see this as just a starting point for you and is something that you can kind of take and move forward with. Now, the last area to talk about here is also our web apps. We continue to invest and enhance in our web apps. Our web apps are the remote applications that are built by us that interact with SL and can do things like interact on a Microsoft, Apple, or Android device. And it really is just a website that you access so you can view this information. We continue to release new versions of web apps every month. Any fixes that we have to do, but a lot of times we're looking for features from our end users that we're enhancing the product to continue to make it work better and better for those end users. Lots of different areas. There are presentations that you can get from SIS on all these features. Obviously, the dark blue items are very focused on the project area, from being able to set up a project, set up a resource, assign them to a project, do time and expense entry, do approvals, and go ahead and see financially how we're doing. We also have capabilities around doing employee utilization. For example, Jeff needs to be 65% billable. We can start recording that and see how he's doing it. And doing resource assignment and do planning where we say, okay, I know I budgeted for 300 hours, but let me see who those people could be. And it's kind of like a sandbox idea where we can do that. Included with that as well is we can do some maintenance screens like vendor and customer maintenance. We can do reporting. So anything you can do in your reports, web reports, are available as well, which does about 78% of the reports you can print out in SL, including custom reports, are available remotely here. Quick queries, if you're using quick query, we can access all the quick queries as well as any custom that you have as well. So lots of different ways you can access SL. Obviously, web apps and the rich client have been around for a while, but we see today now there's new options with Power BI, Power Apps, and Flow. What's the roadmap? Where are we at? Well, we are in the middle here of 2019. And so what have we got? Well, CU2 just released, and you saw that we added new feature function. We talked briefly about some new ideas that we're going to have for CU3, and that's scheduled here in the fourth quarter of this calendar year that will continue. And just like we always have, again, for next year, the goal is to continue to invest in Dynamics SL, ongoing development, things in intelligent cloud, things in new features based on your feedback. And as we talked about, I'd love to get your feedback on any items that might make your life easier. Just to reiterate again, we have and continue to invest with the cumulative updates. And then, as I just said, that third cumulative update will be coming here in the fourth quarter. With that, I wanted to save some time, and looks like we do. I want to save some time. So we want to see if there were any questions on anything that I have presented today. if they have a question, how are they going to ask? And that was my cue for you to come back on. All right. Eric, if you're out there?
I'm here, Jeff. The first question that we have is, we have a customer who's in Mexico since 2012, and I know that Mexico has a lot of customers in SL. So what about electronic invoice? AXGP and 365 Nav, now Business Central have this function. Why does Dynamics SL not? And what about Spanish overlay?
So electronic, so go ahead and you have my email address. Go ahead and reach out to me. Spanish overlay, we are putting the things into work for that. I don't have an exact date on the Spanish overlay yet, but I know that there's been work done on the web app side of it, and I know that we are in plans right now to look into what we need to do to get the SL 2018 up to the Spanish overlay. Stay tuned for information later this year on an exact time frame, but the Spanish overlay is something that we are working on. Now, and as far as the electronic banking goes, we do really rely on Sandler Con to do our electronic banking, so we really haven't pushed into those areas because pretty much Sandler Con is kind of the gold standard for that kind of area. So if you've got banking and so forth around there, you might want to look into that solution as well. All right.
Any other questions? Well, if you do have any other questions, feel free to either email myself or Jeff Schuin or any other member of the SIS team. Jeff, would you mind going to the next slide? Thanks everybody for attending today. If you have any questions, let us know. If you would like to discuss upgrading and what that would look like for your organization, please reach out to myself or Debbie Peavy at the contact information below. Once again, we want to thank everybody for taking the time to attend this webinar today. We're going to send out a recording afterwards, and we also have a few more webinars coming up, so we'll send you some invites for those as well. Thanks, Jeff, for taking the time to present this today, and we hope everybody has a great afternoon.